So Michigan is hosting Oklahoma, and with one of the toughest schedules in college football, they are dangerously close at missing the college football playoff and will have to rely on Bryce Underwood, who has yet to prove why he deserves to be the #1 player in the country. Let's talk about it.
Pop pass, Burks turns the corner, D.O. Burks, touchdown, Oklahoma. In the early going, Haynes in the slot. Another throw in the middle of the field, but it's intercepted. He overthrew a man. And off and running. Will not catch him. Michigan, lightning strike on the first play of the half, 75 yards. Mateer running all the way. Gets free, Mateer, touchdown Oklahoma. That drive was all on the quarterback. Outing the line, expecting a first down run. It's a play fake. He looks downfield, arcs the ball, and it is. Got a fourth down and about a yard here. And that's it. The Sooner defense has the final word. Almost Seago with a tackle for loss.
So Michigan is entering year 2 of Bryce Underwood and year 1 of Kyle Whittingham from Utah. And with this very difficult schedule, we are going to be finding out very early if this team will be able to compete with playoff caliber teams like Oklahoma, who they will face off in week 2. On the other side, Oklahoma, one of the hardest schedules last year. They navigate their way to the college football playoff after beating Michigan in week 2, 24-13. This year, a little bit easier. Still a difficult schedule, but not to the caliber of what it was the past couple of years. Also for Oklahoma, returning their quarterback, John Mateer, who was the preseason Heisman favorite with Arch Manning last year. A lot of people picked him to win the Heisman. He was kind of supposed to be what Fernando Mendoza was last year. What Mendoza was, that's kind of the expectations that John Mateer had, but with the thumb injury, and I think that might have came in that Auburn game, he was never the same after that. We saw in the Texas game, got a bit better, against Bama. This game will be at the Big House. It will be a big noon game because, of course, it's at noon. We'll try to bask in this game and just the excitement of this game because we don't know how many more of these out-of-conference games we're going to see between the Big Ten and the SEC in the next couple of years. The ones that are already happening, they're not necessarily getting canceled. It's just they're not going to be scheduled as much really anymore. The history of this is, it's actually very short. These two teams have only played twice. They played in 1975 and then they played in 2025. 50 years apart. Now they're playing for their third time. Oklahoma leads 2-0. They won in 1975 and they won last year. So Michigan yet to beat the Sooners. And that was Bryce Underwood's first real game. So I think he'll definitely be much more prepared. It is still early in the season, but compared to what was it, week 2 last year, I definitely think Bryce will be better. Some people think he has regressed. I definitely think he has definitely improved probably since, week 2 of last year. So the position battles for this game, and I'll explain how you do it if you have not watched our other playlist of early prediction games, which you guys should go watch. I have it for a bunch of games. I did Ohio State, Michigan. We did LSU, Ole Miss, Oregon, USC. We've done a ton of games. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified when I release more of these early predictions. Also hit the like button if you have not. It helps the show. It's free. It costs nothing. Does nothing to you. But how this works is there are 13 data points. There's quarterback, running backs, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, defensive tackle, edge rusher, safety, special teams, coaching, and home field advantage, which they always count as 3 points. We're counting it as 1 data point. So the 13 data points, and we'll go position through position. I'll throw up the graphic now so you can see it, and then I'll explain it each one through each one. And I will say this is the closest I've ever had in the 8 or 9 early prediction videos that we've done. I've never had one that's been as close as this one, which is why I think this game is going to be incredibly, incredibly good. But starting off at quarterback in the most important position, I am going to give the edge to John Mateer. John Mateer just has the veteranship that someone like Bryce Underwood does not. We saw these two quarterbacks play last year, and you could actually make an argument that, Bryce Underwood has gotten better, and John Mateer has kind of regressed after that thumb injury. Maybe he's not still fully healthy, With a thumb injury, he probably should still be healthy, but who knows? Obviously, the time off, maybe he's just regressed. That just happens. But either way, John Mateer was leagues better than Bryce Underwood last year. I actually think Bryce Underwood's probably more talented than John Mateer, but just John Mateer has more proven production, and that's the meta with the quarterbacks in college football are these 4 fifth-year seniors with proven production with 3+ years, 31, 33 starts under their belt. So I'm going to give it to John Mateer. For running back, I'm going to give it to Michigan. And the thing with running back and tight end for Michigan is there are a few schools where you kind of just blind eye check the box for them. For Ohio State, when you're comparing them to another team's wide receiver room, it's kind of blind check. You give it to Ohio State. For Michigan, the running backs and the tight ends, you kind of sometimes blind check those to them. With Iowa, it's tight ends. With Penn State, it's linebackers. With Georgia, it's offensive linemen. You just kind of automatically give them the edge, and that's what I'm going to do for Michigan. The combination of Jordan Marshall, who stepped up big when Justice Haynes was out last year, and Savion Hyder, the number 1 running back in the class last year, 5-star, that combination, that rotational back, will be as good as last year. Probably not, because I just think Justice Haynes was like a top 5 running back, top 10 running back last year, and Savion Hyder as a true freshman, probably not going to be that. But yeah, I thought Justice Haynes was spectacular last year, so losing him will be a hit, but I still think bringing in Savion Hyder, Jordan Marshall now kind of being his first full year of starting, but he played a lot last year compared to Oklahoma, who they lost Jaden Ott, who was supposed to be good. He was not very good, but they do have Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, who were good last year, but they do not have the proven production that you would want if you're an Oklahoma fan. So that's why I'm going to give the edge to Michigan. For wide receiver, I am going to give this one to Oklahoma. Like, you're not going to make me pick. You know how I said blind check positions? Like, for Michigan, you blind check them running back. Yeah, you kind of blind cross off wide receiver for them because they're never great. And, like, that's saying, Andrew Marsh, who I think is very, very good, kind of stand alone. I think Jamie French from Texas will be good, but I don't think he's going to be spectacular. The combination of Isaiah Satania, who was their wide receiver 1 last year, and Parker Livingston, who was Texas's wide receiver 1 in the first half of the season. Yeah, this wide receiver room for Oklahoma, I think is going to be really, really good. Parker Livingston's a white wide receiver, so, but he was pretty good last year at Texas. For tight end, I'm going to also give it to Michigan. Zach Marshall, I think, is better than Hayden Hansen, who transferred him from Florida. Zach Marshall doesn't have much production, neither does Hayden Hansen. But again, it's Michigan. You kind of check him off for the tight ends. And also remember, like, tight ends are more than just statistics. The run blocking is also a key part of a tight end's play, and Michigan is just far superior at that than anything I think Oklahoma has done recently. So I'm going to give it to Michigan. Offensive line, this one was really close because Oklahoma's returning 4 starters, Michigan's returning 3. Oklahoma, they're almost all sophomores. They have like 1 junior. And then for Michigan, they're also mostly sophomores and kind of juniors. They're not freshmen, but not seniors. So this Michigan offensive line was decent last year. They're all very, very young, have another year to mesh. And I think next year and Bryce's last year, this offensive line will be maybe top 5. Maybe it could be the number 1 offensive line in America. But the problem is both have allowed sacks. Oklahoma allowed 29 sacks. Michigan was 21. The reason why I'm going to give the edge to Oklahoma is just because they have 29 sacks with a much harder schedule compared to Michigan, where they had 21 sacks against an easier schedule. And honestly, it's not even really about the actual schedule. It's about the defensive lines that you were facing. And to be honest, for Michigan, they didn't play, a ton of amazing defensive lines. They played Oklahoma, who was great. Ohio State, that was great. But aside from that, USC wasn't great. Washington wasn't great. Wisconsin wasn't great. So I'm going to give this slight edge to Oklahoma. For defensive tackle, I'm also going to give it to Oklahoma. They had a much better run defense last year. They had the 3rd ranked. Michigan was 17th. Plus, David Stone, standalone star power. David Stone is amazing. He is phenomenal. One of the best defensive tackles in the sport. And then kind of for Trey Pierce, I don't know, not much production. And, Louis Poso is still coaching the defensive line for Michigan. And, he's stayed throughout regime changes. And defensive line was, they were all right last year, not much talent. So we'll see if the coaching can kind of get the most out of this room. But man, with Venables calling this defense and David Stone and how good this defensive line last year, and that was the best part of this defense. Secondary was kind of mid, but that front seven, the front four even, was just amazing. So I'm going to give it to Oklahoma. Same thing for edge. Taylor Wine and Danny Oaks had like 9 sacks last year. I think Taylor Wine had 7 sacks. Or as Danny O'Cohen, one of them had like 7 or 8 sacks last year. And then John Henry Daly transferred him from Utah, had like 2 or 3 sacks. He's all right, but again, we like production. You have a player who had a couple sacks in the Big 12 compared to someone who's been proven in the SEC with 7 sacks. I mean, that's really freaking good. So yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Oklahoma. And with the edge is more about star power than like the total of the room, unlike, defensive tackle or, offensive line. So yeah, 1 or 2 guys are going to make the difference for Oklahoma there. For linebacker, I'll get back to linebacker. I'll do linebacker last. DBs, this was one of the easiest ones. This is Michigan all day. And Jair Hill and Zeke Berry. Zeke Berry had that interception against Julian Sand last year early. It was a great play when they tried to throw it to Jeremiah Smith. And again, when I was saying this, Oklahoma secondary is kind of weak. Eli Bowen, is one of the best, I think probably going to be cornerback 1 or 2 for this team. So there's way more production for Michigan. And with Wink, I think Wink's still calling the defense. I'm going to give it to Michigan. Same thing for safety, Rod Moore over Peyton Bowen. And this is one of the things where it's like with Rod, honestly, I could maybe put Peyton Bowen on top just because Rod Moore, that freshman or redshirt freshman, or he had the game-sealing interception against Cal McCord, and they beat Ohio State, and they went on to win the national title, and he was starting on that national title team. And then when it kind of came to the past, following 2-3 years after that, it's kind of been disappointing. He hasn't been great. There's been a lot of injuries, but he's a 6-year senior, which he's a 6-year senior because he's not good enough to go to the NFL, but he's also a 6-year senior. Indiana just won a national title with 6-year senior. So I'm going to give it to Michigan. Special teams, I'm going to give it to Oklahoma. They got Tate Sendell, Mr. Booty Shorts himself, Lou Groza winner. Easy. They have the best kicker in the country. Him and the Ole Miss kicker are the best. Canaro are the best 2 kickers in the country. And then with Michigan, they have, I think the projected starter, Jacob Baggett, who is the 8th ranked kicker in the country last year. And they're replacing Dominic Zavada. So yeah, that will be a big big hole to fill, big shoes to fill. And even with kick returns, punt returns, both these teams, I don't think any of these guys' teams were amazing on special teams last year when it came to returns and punts and kickoffs. But yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Oklahoma. For coaching, I'm actually going to give it to Michigan, which is crazy because of how bad the coaching has been. But we've had a regime change. Kyle Whittingham, his coaching when they were at Utah, his whole thing was we're going to do more with less talent. Urban Meyer is the mentor of the Michigan head coach. I think it's funny, but that's what Urban did at Utah. And then that's what Kyle Whittingham did at Utah. And what is Michigan known for? Getting 3 stars, growing them, developing them, and then beating 5 stars. That's what Michigan's known for. That's what they do. So yeah, I'm going to actually give it to Michigan. And, coaching in the Big Ten has always been better than the SEC. We've kind of seen coaching collapses in Oklahoma in the playoff. They were up 17-0 against Bama last year. I'm going to give it to Michigan. And then Michigan has home field advantage. So we're deadlocked. We've never been deadlocked. Out of the 13 data points, Oklahoma has won 6. Michigan has won 6. And it all comes down to linebacker, which was originally a toss-up, but I didn't want to end on a tie. So this one's very tough because Michigan's replacing Barron. Oklahoma's Owen Heineke, who I don't think is great, and Oklahoma had better run defense. When guys would get past the defensive line for Oklahoma, and it was kind of that one-on-one for the linebackers, they were burning them a lot, all the time. Look at the first play of the second half when Michigan played Oklahoma last year with Justice Haynes. So it's very close. But the meta in college football is proven production, and Oklahoma has it by an inch. So with having that better run defense and plus Michigan losing Jayden Barron, their number 1 linebacker last year, Oklahoma's going to win 7-6, the closest we ever had it. Literally, these teams are deadlocked. I mean, Oklahoma has the better quarterback, which is, that's the most important position. But like, man, Oklahoma won by like that much, literally that much. But Oklahoma does end up winning 7-6. Let me know down in the comments who you think has like the better roster, because I feel like everyone is automatically just saying Oklahoma has the better roster. I actually think Michigan has an underrated roster. Plus, they always play well with less talent anyways. So Oklahoma like survives by a sliver. Very, very close, but they end up winning 7-6 over Michigan. So some of my expectations for this game is going to be much closer than people think. Oklahoma, I do think, has a big advantage at quarterback compared to Michigan with Bryce Underwood, who, he's still trying to figure things out. And yes, I think Kyle Whittingham will drastically improve Bryce Underwood, but remember, this game isn't in week 10, it's in week 2, so expect something similar to even though it improved from the end of last year, something similar to the end of last year compared to what Bryce Underwood is going to be at the end of this year. I do expect him to be better, though, and I think the thing that everyone that is rooting for Michigan wants to see is like, man, dude, can you just throw the intermediate passes at 70% speed? This dude, he'll shoot a seamed throw on cover 4, 20 yards, a bullet, and it'll be an amazing throw. But it's like, man, dude, it's a screen route or it's a mesh. Just lob it. You don't have to bullet everything. Not everything is a highlight reel. And that's been one of the biggest problems. And I'm not biased. This is what y'all have been saying. I'm not making this up. Can you throw the intermediate and the short stuff at 70% speed? Not everything has to be 1,000,000 miles per hour. And, I expect both of these teams to be more defense first, so don't expect a ton on offense. I actually think Oklahoma and Michigan's defense should be improved compared to last year for both of them, especially Michigan, just because of how much older they're getting compared to last year. And I'm very high on John Mateer. He needs to stay healthy. Can we see, the John Mateer that we saw against Michigan last year, the one where he's throwing it on a rope, he's lobbing it 40 yards, tiptoeing on a receiver that's tiptoeing down the sideline? Can you do that? Can you do that for us? Because we did not see that later in the year from him. Damn, we saw it early in the year when he played Michigan. So can we see Michigan John Mateer, or are we going to see, Texas John Mateer? Or are we going to see Alabama John Mateer, where it's kind of somewhere in the middle? We'll see. And unfortunately, this game will be at noon on Fox, which of course it is, when it's, look at Ohio State, Texas. It's, in SEC country on the road, night game on ABC or CBS or whatever, or ABC, yeah. And when it's here in Big Ten country, big noon Fox, it's bad. I wish this was a night game. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably wish this was a night game, but I don't know. I'm not a Michigan. I'm an Ohio State fan. I'm not a Michigan fan, so if it makes Michigan fans mad that's at noon, put it at noon. But also, personally, I'm glad this game is at noon because Ohio State, Texas is the same week, which that's going to be a night game, and you would not want both of these games to be at the same time. Michigan fans, don't you want to watch you beat them and also watch Ohio State lose and not at the same time? You don't have to split your attention, or Ohio State win. You know what I mean? Hate watch them. So yeah, it's probably, I would maybe wish this was a 3:30 game. So, but I don't know. But yeah, that's some of my expectations. Very defensive teams very defensive front from these two teams. Both teams are not going to be offensive juggernauts. Oklahoma probably more than Michigan, but I don't think Oklahoma's offense is going to be top 15. And I definitely do not think Michigan's offense is going to be top 15. So my prediction for this game, and if you've not watched my early predictions, subscribe, go watch them. And how we do this, so I don't give you a stupid broad prediction where it's so vague that I can't be wrong. I'm going to give you exactly what I think is going to happen. I'm going to even give you a script of how I think it's going to happen. I think this game will be much better than last year, and I actually probably think the loser of this game misses the CFP. Actually, I might have both of these teams missing the CFP. I have to check. But I think the loser of this game definitely does not make it. So I think this game will be a very defensive game early. It's what I said earlier, especially in the red zone. And I think Michigan's O-line will set up well against these Oklahoma edges that will allow some big plays past the Oklahoma linebackers, what we talked about earlier. But I think Bryce will struggle on the passing game, because we saw Michigan actually, they can handle edge rushers and defensive tackles in the run game. Not great in pass protection, and that's going to be something they're going to have to improve on. The offensive line is young, but I think Bryce will struggle, but I think just the home field advantage will get him, going earlier. So I think Michigan will be up 13-10. I think they'll have the lead. Now in the second half, I think Oklahoma wakes up. I think they have a huge touchdown drive, taking the lead 17-13. And this is now where the Big Ten coaching takes over. And I think Michigan just dominates the rest of the third quarter and the first half of the fourth quarter, going on a 10-0 run. Now they're up 23-17 heading into middle of the fourth quarter. And now in the fourth, this is where it gets unpredictable, really. I mean, I'm predicting this game 4 months out, and I'm trying to predict the fourth quarter of a game. But, in the fourth quarter, depending on if the team's up or down, they'll either close the playbook or they'll start opening the playbook, having bigger plays or shorter plays. They'll want to play more cute, more safe. And defenses will get tired depending on how many snaps they're taking. Usually with offensive teams, the defense is on the field less just because of how quick drives are. And then for defensive teams, usually the defenses get a little bit more tired because of how slow the offenses are. But I think the veteranship of John Mateer takes over. He gets some crucial yards, picks up a couple third down conversions, and with 2 minutes left in the fourth, John Mateer on 3rd and goal dives for the pylon and scores 24-23. Now they have their first lead since early in the second half. So now with 2 minutes left, 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning, can Bryce Underwood lead his team to field goal range to kick either a game winner or score a touchdown to win? And now on their own 40-yard line, after having a good return, I think he lobs it deep. The deepest pass all game to Andrew March for the first time, and I think it gets intercepted. I think Oklahoma survives against the Wolverines, and Oklahoma wins 24-23, staying undefeated with a huge non-conference road win. So I hope you guys all enjoyed watching today's video. I think this game is going to be great. I'm excited. Michigan fans, I know you see the background. You're going to yell at me, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. What? If you want to say whatever, that's fine. Just be nice, because y'all like to get personal. Just stick to football. Bro, if you're going to be nasty, stick it to football. Don't be like threatening no people, because I'm tired of dealing with y'all when y'all do that. But I think Oklahoma survives this game. I think it's close. I think it's much closer. I think people think Oklahoma's going to destroy Michigan. I don't think that's the case. I think Michigan will have a very clean fight and a very good fight. And they take the first loss. Obviously, the season's not over, but they have some very big games against Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. So when I make early predictions for those videos, let me know if you want to see them. Let me know if you want to see an Oregon-Michigan video. And please hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Also hit the like button. It's free, it costs nothing, helps me out. And let me know down in the comments, who do you guys think is going to win this game? I picked Oklahoma by 1 point. Let me know if you pick Michigan to win. But again, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow. And as always, thank you.